Welcome to another episode of an in-person conversation on the Business Exchange. The Business Exchange is a podcast from the American Business Council that shares insights about how different things work in the economy of Nigeria and focusing on the very critical importance of the different sectors. My name is Margaret Olele and I'm your host for this podcast. Today I have with me a very special guest. Quite frankly, I'm trying to think if I've ever interviewed anyone in government. Yes, okay, Pebek, yes, and the company. Yeah. But today we have a very, very special guest. He's the Comptroller General of Customs, Nigerian Customs Service, and his name is Bashir Adewale Adeniyi. MFR. I like to put the title, Alhaji Bashir Adewale Adeniyi. Welcome to this podcast.
Thank you very much, madam.
We know that countries have gradings around the ease of doing business, and private sector tends to move towards countries that have better ease of doing business, readings and ratings. And Nigeria is no different because we also want to have, companies that would want to do business. The NCS plays a very critical role in ensuring the facilitation of trade and ensuring that this investment happens and that ease of doing business, comes to bear. But there's the bit around ensuring the ease of doing business and attracting investments. But there's also the reality of revenues that must come because the country's revenue is critical to the survival of the country as well. Recently, which I found, very, very interesting, the NCS, the Customs Service, raised about over 223% growth in revenue and got a special accolade from the Nigerian President, His Excellency Ahmed Tinubu. And so I just want to find out, so how were you able to achieve this?
All right, thank you very much. And thanks for the opportunity. In a nutshell, this is what I would say that we have done. We've paid a lot of attention to generating revenue leakages that we had in a number of places, streamlining our processes and procedures. But while we are doing that, we are not losing sight of the fact that we also need to take, and give equal importance to issues around trade facilitation so that, we can make it a more, a better experience for organized private sector. So as we had all of that positive outcomes from revenue, we are also happy that we are getting very good results from our trade facilitation initiatives.
That's good to note. I know that at the conversation we had earlier today on the ease of doing business, a couple of people share their positive insights about the experiences they're currently having. But obviously, there are areas that are still challenging. There's the bit around the FX, which really does not sit directly on your desk. But I know that there's quite a bit you're doing in terms of some level of harmonization to make things work for those who are importing goods. Yeah. But there are still issues around transparency. There are issues around the times it still takes people to bring in. Obviously, no system is in itself very perfect. So, which means we're on a journey. I'll just want to see, or if you can share some insights on what you're doing to address some of these bottlenecks and challenges that were shared earlier and that I just mentioned.
Okay, so depending on who you talk to in the industry, customs agents, importers, exporters, operators, agencies of government. If you ask them the question, how long does it take you to get a container out of the port? You're likely going to get responses that are as varied as the interests of the respondents. So one of the first things that we needed to do was to take a look at our processes and procedures. And like I said, we've introduced initiatives like advanced ruling, like authorized economic operator programs, the removal of checkpoints, the removal of multiple alerts and things like that. So when the World Customs Organization encourages us that when you bring in those reforms, you actually need to test how impactful, what effects all those reforms have, been, in your overall business process. So what we have done is to embark on a scientific study of how long does it really take for clearance of goods in our ports. And this would be a study that takes into consideration everything that is involved from the time the vessel arrives in the country, the discharge is being taken, declarations are made, duty payment is made, all the bureaucracies that is involved, in moving from customs to the domain of the terminal operators and eventually to that of the shipping companies that will give the final release. So this is a scientific study that would give us an idea of how long it takes to release. So we launched this study in March. We were happy that all the stakeholders that I've mentioned and government agencies, because that was also very critical, they joined us in participating in that study. The study is still in progress. We are hoping that in the this quarter of 2024, the result of this will be ready and we'll be able to publish this as expected of any customs administration that launches it. Now, what am I making out of this? The study will not only tell us what time it takes, it will be able to explain to us, we are going to see it very clearly, the data, that this is why this is delayed in some places. And we'll be able to answer questions like, is it because of the processes that are put in place from customs? Then the solution will be customs to take a second look at those processes. What can we streamline? What can we do in a faster way? Is it because of some regulatory issues? Then we look at all the agencies that are involved and I say, look, this sits on your desk. This particular issue concerns you. Is it the law? Then we have to ask the parliament. Oh, this law is obsolete. We need to tinker with this. We need to change this. We need to change that. So it is, we're going to ask pertinent questions. It's the outcome of the TRS is going to throw some pertinent questions, and the response to those questions, will help us to address the delays that are caused, in the process of trade. So it's a very invaluable trade facilitation tool, and I'm hoping that within the time frame remaining, all stakeholders will still cooperate with us so that we get an accurate time, and then we'll be able to apply lessons learned from the exercise.
Thank you so much for that. One of the things that came out very strongly during your presentation, or at least the conversation we had, because it was more of a conversation of presentation, is the importance of collaboration in the work that you're doing, and the fact that you focus a lot on that. Like you said, you cannot clap with one hand, you have to clap with two, so, and I've seen that in this TRS, the project on getting out real data on what is really truly the situation in terms of how quickly goods come out, and even also the bit around I think you also mentioned something around CBN and the work you've been doing on. So can you kind of share some of this collaborative work with different agencies, because this is very important to note, and also even with private sector as well.
Yeah. So again, I talked about the fact that I believe that we can draw strengths from the strength of other organizations and agencies. I just give you a very good example. We are overlooking the Atlantic. A lot of things is happening over the Atlantic, and for you to access the Atlantic, you need, the capacity. You need very, efficiently run watercrafts, vessels, ocean-going vessels, and things like that. So a lot of smuggling is also going on, on the high seas. So we've known that we do not have the capacity. We do not have the equipment. We do not have the vessels that can patrol the sea as the Navy. So it makes sense for us to approach the Navy and tell them, now, this is my mandate. Part of my mandate includes, containing smuggling on the high seas. Here is my problem. I don't have the kind of vessel that would, take me there. I don't have the capacity. My officers are not as trained as your officers. So you are masters on top of water. We are just starters. So it makes a lot of sense for me to, approach them and see how I can collaborate with them. So, and that's the same thing, we are doing with all other agencies. So it's a deliberate, agenda item for me to collaborate and, draw strengths from other agencies. Road safety, as distant as they are, road safety controls registrations of vehicles. And we have discovered that vehicles can be smuggled and then they still go and get registered. So it means that I need road safety to deny vehicles that are not properly imported into the country to access to registration. So how do we do that? We need our systems to speak with each other so that anytime you present a document to road safety is able to check from our system whether duty has been paid. And WCO, the World Customs Organization, actually encourages us to, engage in this kind of collaboratory act, to see what we can achieve together through the power of collaboration. The private sector is very, very important. There are a lot of conventions that have been signed that obligates us to collaborate with them. I gave the example of the Healthcare Federation of Nigeria, which is a very strong lobby group of healthcare professionals, and they engage in a lot of importation and exportation and manufacturing of goods. So to bring healthcare delivery to the footsteps of Nigeria, we need to address the concerns that community has, and they are very huge and, legitimate issues that they have raised with us in my engagement with them. And I'm happy that those engagements are beginning to yield positive results. We learned that the executive order, bringing some of their products, in, within the framework of duty exemptions, has been worked on and is just awaiting implementation. So, we are very, very deliberate about it because we believe in the power of collaboration.
That's very good, and we'll stay on the healthcare piece for the moment, because again, some of us have a bit of a background in healthcare. One of the issues that we notice is the issue around counterfeits and also parallel trade. So let's even because counterfeit is its own craziness on its own, right? But there's the parallel trade that does not help in terms of, in fact, actually it helps, it hemorrhages revenues for the government. And so how are you able to clog this? Obviously, it's not something that's a one agency or one service that can handle, but how are we able to clog this? This has been ongoing for a while. In fact, now it's a lot more because you find out that, of course, the cost of medicines have gone up. So you see this parallel trade and it's impacting on revenues and even the quality of medicine as well. So what is being done in that instance, and what are the areas okay, now this is a double parallel question. What are the areas that you think you can work with private sector to kind of ameliorate these challenges?
Yeah, I agree with you. It hemorrhages revenue, but beyond revenue, there are bigger issues that we can attribute to the high incidence of piracy, counterfeiting in our country. Security is also involved. The security of the nation, the health security of the nation, public health is very very important for us, and we could also talk about the fact that it could also affect our national security. It could also have influence on impact on national security if it is not addressed. Earlier today, I talked about the fact that the dynamics of international trade has changed, and customs administrations are beginning to also re-engineer and reposition themselves. One of the things that we have done was that we never had in our structure any unit that deals with intellectual property anti-piracy. Yeah. So now we do have a structure. We do have it in our structure.
Okay.
So we have a unit that is headed by a controller, and their day-to-day activities is to address issues of IPR, counterfeiting, parallel markets, and all of that. It's also a very big concern to customs administrations all over the world, and we have collaborations with the WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Rights Organization, to make sure that we collaborate. What it enjoins us to do is to identify and collaborate and work with brand owners, those who have the rights over all those products, to ensure that those rights are not infringed upon by people who want to sabotage them. So it's a very big issue, and what I think the industry can do for us is to build up the capacity of customs officers. That's majorly what I think we can do. The customs have been sufficiently sensitized on the danger posed by the parallel market, and because we also interact with the tobacco industry.
Okay.
Tobacco industry is one of the biggest ones that have suffered from the hands of from the parallel market, activities in the parallel market. And what they have done is to have a very robust engagement with the customs. So I know that in my early years in customs, I have been part of a number of training programs organized by the tobacco industry, operators in the tobacco industries. We've gone to other countries in the world where IPR enforcement is very strong. I've been to Kenya, I've been to South Africa on such trips in the past to see how they are collaborating with their customs officers to build up their capacity to be able to recognize when products are presented to them, or at least ask the right question. The use of hologram is becoming very important. We build the capacity of customs officers in this area. In Command and Staff College, where I was before I became CG, we've also had the opportunity to review our curriculum, particularly regarding, intellectual property rights and its enforcement. And part of what we do is to invite these right owners to come and, engage with students and share their experience with them, and let them know the difference between, original products and counterfeited products, so that they'll be able to know how to manage it when they are presented. So it still speaks to collaboration, where, we need to work together to build a capacity to be able to recognize fake counterfeited products and take appropriate actions to protect infringement.
Thank you very much for that, CG. I'm going to go out of my script, which is a bad habit I do sometimes. So Nigeria is part of the AFCFTA, and usually we are looking at the ease of doing business playing a critical role in making sure that it happens for countries. So companies are likely to put their manufacturing sites in places and countries where they feel that they have better ease of doing business, and movement of the goods from one from one country to another is fairly seamless. How are we, integrating? Or well, not we. How is custom? I'm suddenly, I don't have that badge of honor yet working with customs. But how is the NCS, working on this in line with the AFCFTA to make sure that when full implementation, because we are talking about it, but when full implementation happens, that Nigeria benefits, through the work of the Nigerian Customs Service.
We are late entrants to it. We signed the agreement after some initial, but since we signed the agreement, effort has been ongoing to ensure that we take actions that will make us benefit maximally from involvement in the trade. The National Action Office has been, put in place to handle day-to-day running of the secretariat that will see the implementation and perform the coordinating job of all the agencies that are going to be involved. And I'm happy that, the executive secretary who coordinates that office is somebody who has been in the trade ecosystem before, having been the executive secretary of the National Export Promotion Council. Yes. That's the first thing from the Nigerian perspective. The second thing is that I saw a major role for the National Committee on Trade Facilitation, which for years has been inactive. So one of the first things we also did was to reactivate this and bring them on. But for customs specifically, I must say that there is capacity gap, and there is serious capacity gap in the area of rules of origin. And, origin fraud is a very big issue that can militate against the delivery of the mandate of AFTA. So we've addressed this head on because we are having collaboration with the headquarters of the World Customs Organization, with the World Trade Organization, and the World Bank. Through that, through cooperation with those three entities, we have launched a number of training programs, and over 200 officers, selected ports have been exposed to different training activities to ensure that we have officers equipped with the right knowledge that would implement it. Nigerian Customs Service has been picked as the competent authority to certify origin. It used to be the Chamber of Commerce, and so we are also building capacity of the officers so that they'll be able to undertake that role. So this stakeholder engagement, this training, capacity building is beginning to yield positive results because Nigeria has now embraced the Guided Trade Initiative, which is one step that the AFTA Secretariat has launched. And we missed out on the first one. And the second one is coming up in a matter of weeks. And Nigeria Customs Service is actively participating in that launch, which is expected to happen in Apapa Port here, in about a week. So we are excited and we are crossing our fingers, hoping that the organized private sector would take maximum advantage of, access to perhaps the biggest markets, trading markets, the biggest free market, continental free trade markets in the world. So we'll be waiting, and we'll be willing to play our role to ensure that this comes into fruition.
Thank you so much for that. I have other questions, but I'm also very conscious of time, so I'll just take one or two more. So there's the AGOA, piece, exporting, which is a different ballgame entirely. The AGOA summit is happening in DC between the 24th to 26th of July. And, sometimes it's like, how is Nigeria really tapping into those opportunities relative to other countries? But I think I'll leave that and talk about the programs, you have mentioned the time release study. There's the transition of the fast track, the 2.0, to the authorized economic operator, the AEO program, the introduction of the advanced ruling system, and then these along with other things like the integrated custom information system, the NICIS, and the power. These have all helped to improve and accelerate efficiency and the ease of doing business. Can you elaborate on the measurable impact of these measures that we have taken, or the initiatives, on the Nigerian ports operations?
We're beginning to see the outcomes when we look at our mandates. We have three principal mandates: revenue generation, trade facilitation, and anti-smuggling, national security. So we're beginning to see positive outcomes. We have a robust risk management system that enables us to, profile all imports, all exports, to know that those that are suspicious, either that will make us lose revenue or that pose threats to national security. So in all of these fronts, I'm happy that we're getting results, and it means that we can do all of this and excel in all of them. So our revenue is growing. Our numbers shows that by as high as 70% year on year. If you compare this quarter with last quarter, yes, it's also an improvement, about 15-16% improvement. The uncertainties that we have in the first quarter is no longer so.
Okay.
There seems to be some degree of stability in the forex market. It's still a little bit high, but
at least it's predictable,
predictable and more stable than what it was. So we are expecting that we are still going to build on this momentum in the third quarter and even, get more revenue. In terms of security, yes, some guys are threatening our national integrity, and they come in through our system because they know that we are putting in place a number of trade facilitation initiatives. They want to take advantage and bring in goods that will threaten our national security. We had 2 major seizures of arms in One, 844 units, and over 1,000 ammunition that was seized in just one container. We had seizures at the airport. We have several seizures of drugs, counterfeit drugs, narcotics, all over the Federation. And in terms of the trade facilitation agenda, the payback ranking shows that customs is the most improved government agencies. We moved several notches up the ladder, and we now rank with 4 other agencies, scoring 100% in the latest ranking. So it does shows that if we get our risk management right, if we get commitments of the officers and men right, if we get the necessary support, the political will from government, we can actually deliver on all of our mandates and deliver them in style that we have, like we have seen in the last few months in Nigeria Customs Service.
Thank you so much. And on the final note, final note, what are the key messages you would like to share with the listening audience and the viewers?
Well, the first is that nobody can afford, or nobody can pretend not to see that there is a new wind that is blowing across the Nigerian port system, the Nigerian trade system. So there is a very high level of commitment of government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to change the narrative, to make Nigeria an investor-friendly country, to make the customs clearing in our ports, the port system, better than it was. And we are beginning to see the outcome of that. So my first message is that, Nigerians and the international community should take note of this and act, otherwise they would be left behind. The second is to show that we are aware that there are still a number of issues that we need to resolve, particularly areas around transparency, integrity of our processes, We are not, in denial of them. They can be better. My assurance to them is that things will get better in the fullness of time. But then it takes two to tango. So we will also expect a higher level of compliance from organized private sector. It is only when they come in, when they bring in things and then they want to underdeclare, they want to escape prohibition, that they go around compromising the integrity of our officers. So we will ask for integrity, higher level of integrity from our stakeholders. The third, I've mentioned it in a number of times, is that there is a capacity gap in most of the agencies that are involved in international trade, particularly customs. And we will appreciate whatever assistance that we can get from our partners to shore up our capacity, particularly in the areas of intellectual property enforcement, infringement and enforcement, protection of brand rights, the areas of origin fraud, transfer pricing. These are all areas, where we can make a difference. And, now we're going to implement single window. So it will also entail, more digitalization of our processes. So we could also make do with more capacity building in some of these areas.
Thank you so much for that. And I just want to stress that you would have the assurances of our partnership. We are very keen to continue to work and make sure that we move beyond where we are today. And thank you for all the progress that happened. And that's really helping the ease of doing business.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Seji.